You could be the worst person in the world, but if you have an idea that's good for Florida, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, I don't like you, I'm not going to. No, I'm going to embrace it, because that's my job. My job's to look out for you, not to worry about me. So that's how I've approached it since I've been governor. Part of the reason we've been more successful in terms of what we've been able to accomplish. But you know, it is what it is, and the way these are doing. But just understand, the voters are not divided on this. When they know what the bills say, this is overwhelming. This is not a division, especially Republicans. Republicans are overwhelmingly in favor of doing what I've proposed, and they're overwhelmingly negative about what the legislature has actually done. That's just a fact. So to the extent there's division, it's because you have elected officials that are not following through with what they promise voters, and are quite frankly making it more difficult for President Trump to fulfill the mandate he has to enforce immigration laws, secure the border, and conduct this major deportation effort. Yes?
I have a lengthy question, so bear with me while I elaborate. You mentioned planning to remove sheriffs who don't follow the rules or all that. What details can you confirm about the investigation into County Sheriff Caroline Martino, and have you spoken with him since the probe?
I haven't spoken with them, so I've seen the reports. How these things happen is I have a responsibility as governor to discipline county-wide elected officials, and there's certain triggers that trigger my authority to suspend from office. Neglect of duty, misfeasance, malfeasance, drunkenness, there's incompetence, there's a handful of things, but that is, facts need to be presented to me. It's not done through the media where they're doing that, and then I act or not act as appropriate. So I don't do this stuff through the media. Things in the media, quite frankly, sometimes aren't true, and so you got to do that, and you got to have the facts laid out. And so if those facts ever rise to that for any elected official, then obviously I've shown I've been willing to take action. I mean, my first week as governor, we suspended the sheriff down in Broward who bungled the Parkland shooting. He should have been removed before I became governor. It was like almost a year in, but you know what? It needed to be done. He neglected his duty, and so we acted. So we won't hesitate when it's there, but I have not been given kind of the full rundown, the full briefing on this or really any outstanding matters as of right now. Now, there's also the issue of anybody at municipal or county, if they are ever brought up on charges, then usually it's a pro forma thing where you could suspend at that point. So that's kind of how we view it.
Can ICE legally enter public Florida schools and detain undocumented children?
Yeah, so we don't have any bar in Florida. Our Florida Department of Education, we are going to work constructively and help facilitate their missions. Now, how often they're doing that, that's more of a question for them, I think, but there's no bar in the state of Florida for conducting immigration enforcement operations. We want to be supportive. The thing is like I hear some of these people in the media act like, oh well, you arrested 900 people yesterday, and only 600 of them were criminals. But anyone that comes illegal has committed a criminal offense. That's just the reality. And if you're saying that you can come illegally, and as long as you don't commit a felony, that somehow you have a right to just stay, well, then our schools are going to continue to be too crowded. Healthcare costs, all these things will never be solved. So I don't think you need to have committed a criminal offense if you're here illegally to be subject to removal and deportation. Now, I think it's totally appropriate if ICE, if they have all these people, if they have known people that are really bad that Biden just let roam free, you want to focus on them to start, understand that. But just in the broad sweep of things, the legislature's bill, what underlines it is they have a belief that if you've come here illegally but not committed a criminal felony offense, then you just shouldn't have immigration enforcement against you. I want to get them before there's any more victims. I want to get them to just uphold the rule of law. So our view, the reason why I want to be aggressive is because we'll be much broader than just waiting until somebody's convicted of a felony. Well, yeah, obviously at that point, that's a no-brainer. But there's so many things up to that. But we are not going to have any prohibition on the federal government doing its constitutional duty. Quite frankly, states can be sanctuary to a certain extent, but if they do have lawful basis to do things, it isn't like we would even be able to stop anyways. But we will affirmatively assist these operations across the state. It'll be probably more dependent on them to see like how they want to go in or what they want to do for different things. But you know what Biden did? They said you can't do sensitive, and they drew big circles around like any church. And the problem is, like, you know, once you've done that, there's almost no place that you could do. You could conduct a raid in the woods somewhere, right? Because of the way they did it. So that doesn't make sense. And we just want to make sure that that these operations are as effective as humanly possible. Again, the president ran and promised, and he's intent on delivering, because I've talked to him about it, the largest effort for deportation in American history. The only way you get there is if you have all hands on deck.
Did the legislature shock you?
Right here.
Governor DeSantis, the Florida legislature has historically been in pretty much lockstep with you. What factors could have gone into them changing on this issue?
Well, historically, I've been lockstep with the voters, and they've seen that, and I think that has caused them to want to be on the right side of the voters. And I think on this situation, I'm on the right side of the voters, and they're not. So it's not about me. I think that the media wants to make it about me, like, oh, they should just do what you say. Honestly, if I had produced the policy that they produced, I would look in the mirror and say, you know what, they should probably oppose that. Obviously, I would never propose this stuff. But the question is, are you doing your job to reflect the wishes of the people that put you there or not? So don't worry about being in lockstep with me. Be in lockstep with the campaign promises you made. Be in lockstep with what the voters want to see. And I can tell you there aren't voters that want catch and release. There aren't voters that want the ad commissioner to take this over and to neuter our state agencies and the governor. There aren't voters who think the, quote, Trump Act, which is supposed to be tough, would mention the word agriculture over 30 times and not mention the word deport one time in their bill. Not one time. So it's more about being in lockstep with the people that sent you there, and I think I've built up a lot of reservoir of goodwill amongst the voters, particularly that have elected the Republicans, because when I've told people I was going to do it, I did it. When I leaned in on issues when some voters were scratching their head, like on COVID, saying, you know what, we've got to have this state open. We've got to have schools open. We should not allow kids to be forced masked in school. All these things I was doing were not terribly popular, certainly with the media. And a lot of these politicians now who take credit for it oppose me privately. You know, but it's even, I think some of the Florida voters, like, they probably scratched it at the time, but then they said, you know what, this guy, he knew what he needed to do, he did it, stuck it out, and aren't we glad we're the free state of Florida? So they've seen me do this, and I think when you're talking about these legislative leaders, they don't know who they are. I think it's just this initial salvo. What you've seen is there's a difference between having a Republican majority and a conservative majority. We had a conservative majority the previous 2 years, and we produced more conservative policy victories than any state's ever done over a 2-year period. I think what you're seeing, and I think it's driven by the leadership, they're moving the Republicans in the legislature left. So it's not that they're, yeah, when you move left, you're not going to be in lockstep with me, because I ain't on the left, and I ain't moving left. And I'm going to stay strong and bold, and that's what you got to do. But they are moving left. And I think it's just, when I became governor, this was a 50-50 state. Remember, people thought it was going to end up being a blue state. We now have 1.2 million almost more Republicans than Democrats. Now, some of that, you know, there's a lot of positive to do that because, you know, we basically neutered the Democratic Party in this state. The problem, though, is a lot of people now know, hey, in order to get elected, you have to be a Republican, right? Whereas if you stop, so you'll have people that may not necessarily be as committed to the mission of advancing bold colors, not pale pastels, like Reagan used to say, and so that gets reflected. But if the Florida legislature is going to try to move left, then I'm going to be there to fight back against that. I don't think you move left. I think you double down on success. Do what got you here. There's a reason why we've become a red state. Not because we've been milquetoast, not because we've had pale pastels, not because we're warmed over corporatism, which their bill basically is. No, it's because we've been bold. We put Floridians first. We've had huge contrasts with the political left. We beat Disney in this state. When would anyone thought that would be possible? We beat gender ideology in this state. We beat critical race theory in this state. We are the first state to eliminate DE&I. You know, all the great stuff. President Trump just did an executive order on the gender surgeries. Great. Florida banned that 2 years ago, right? So we've led on all these issues, and voters respond positively to that. So if the legislature is going to try to go left, if they're going to try to water down our stance against illegal immigration and try to be more corporatist and weak, that's not going to work. But it's not about like me. I'm where I've always been. I'm where the voters who elected us are, and I think they're deviating from this. And that is not the direction that's ultimately going to be successful for the state. So no left turns. You got to be strong, especially on the issue of illegal immigration. And if you're strong on these issues, if you're reflecting the voters and you're in lockstep with them, man, you're going to see some really good stuff. But if you think you can go to Tallahassee and kind of behave different than what you told people you would do back home, you're just going to run into problems. It's not even about me. It's about the voters that elected you. So the reason why we've had so much success is because we created great momentum. We were doing what the voters wanted to see us doing. We were leading unapologetically. We were leaning in on tough issues. You know, didn't have our finger in the wind, weren't afraid of our own shadow, and we've charted the course for so many other states. So let's keep doing that. Let's not rest on our laurels and think that somehow, you know, you can go back to just being, to going to the left. The left is not going to help you. The left in this country has created a lot of these problems. Why would you want to go left on anything? So you can count on me. You know where I'll be on these issues. We will be in lockstep with the voters that sent us here, and I'll do what I said I was going to do. I think it's probably better for the legislature to just simply be in lockstep with the voters, and if they are, then we'll be pretty close on most of this stuff. But if they're going to go up there and do the stunt that they did, that's just not going to work well. It's not going to work well for the state. It's not going to work well for the Republican Party of Florida. And honestly, you're basically giving the Democrats a lifeline to be able to resuscitate themselves. Democrats were high-fiving on the floor the other night. The ACLU was cheering the leaders of the Florida legislature. Was the ACLU cheering me when we banned sanctuary cities? No. Were Democrat leaders high-fiving when we banned gender ideology? No. Were Democrat leaders high-fiving when we've done things against illegal immigration? No, no. We were defeating them. We were actually doing what we needed to do. And so to see that, I don't see how you can construe that as anything other than turning left. When you don't have a mandate to turn left, they want you to keep going. You know, Margaret Thatcher used to say, you know, the lady's not for turning. Because, oh, Lady Thatcher, are you going to turn? Are you going to change? Lady's not for turning. I'm sticking with what works. I'm sticking with the principles. I'm going to be bold. I'm not going to have watery policy. So this is a great encapsulation of that, the differences in these proposals. And I am all about, I don't need any pride of ownership. Come up with strong proposals. Come up with proposals that our voters are going to embrace and that's going to actually work. And the question for ourselves is, you know, at the end of 4 years of President Trump, how many fewer illegal aliens are going to be in the state of Florida than are here right now? I can tell you under their bill, I don't think you'd see much of a difference. I mean, these guys will work hard. They'll do stuff. There will be more positive, no question. But you don't have the resources you need to really, really have a historic impact. And we have to be there. We've got to be a part of this. So thank you, everybody. We look forward to coming back soon. Oh, yeah, we're going to sign. All right, before we go, so we have a memorandum of understanding, as I mentioned. Florida Highway Patrol down here in Southwest Florida. This memorandum of understanding allows them to, I guess you got to go through some training probably and stuff, but our Highway Patrol will effectively be deputized with immigration authority. And so that is going to be a huge force multiplier. We want to do that all over the state with our state agencies. Obviously, if this bill passed, the Ag Commissioner could deep six that. But we also want locals to be involved in this too. That's part of the reason why we're doing the bill. But I think this is exciting. So we'll both sign these here. So there, I'll give that as a souvenir. You have one of these already. There you go. All right. There you go. Memorandum of Understanding. The state of Florida is in this fight. The state of Florida is going to lead. We're going to be strong. And we are going to use everything at our disposal to ensure that this administration's mandate to get this job done on immigration is successful. Thanks, everybody. God bless. This way. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks. Good to see you.